Former Massachusetts Governor Mitt Romney says he'll formally announce he's running for president next week in New Hampshire. And this weekend, Sarah Palin's going there, too, on a bus tour of the Northeast, which will no doubt include a lot more than just sightseeing. CBS News political correspondent Jan Crawford in Washington to tell us who's out and who's in the race for the Republican nomination this morning. Jan, good morning.
Good morning, Chris.
So Sarah Palin announces this national bus tour on her website yesterday. It begins Sunday in Washington. If you're going to do this, may as well run for president, right?
Well, you know, that is the big question that everyone's asking. Is she running for president, or is she just out there kind of staying at the center of the debate and leading the conversation? I mean, no one really knows at this point. But I've got to say, a lot of Republicans think that the bus tour is win-win for the party. Palin can get out there and talk about the issues, really take on President Obama and get conservatives fired up about this election. She raises the energy level. And then, of course, if she is running, this is going to help her. She'll get out there with the voters. She's going to get a lot of media coverage. It is a great way to launch a campaign. Hey, but we don't know if she's launching one.
Well, that's just it. If she wasn't running, would she do this, do you think?
Well, I mean, that is what everyone I said they're trying to figure out. I think sure she would do this. She's been very engaged, very involved in the national debate. We saw her endorse a lot of different candidates in the recent congressional elections. She wants to be a participant in this national conversation and in this race, whether or not she's a candidate or just someone who's out there trying to stir people up and get people motivated.
Well, we know she galvanizes Republicans, but she also does not have a high favorability rating in the national electorate. If she can't beat the incumbent, President Obama, right now, does she become more of a distraction for the Republican Party?
Well, I mean, I think that is what some conservatives are afraid of. But people have very different views on Sarah Palin. As you know, Republicans still view her positively. Our polls show that about 51%, I think, in the recent poll have a favorable view of her. But among all voters, only 26% do. So that's a real division. But I think the bus tour kind of gives her a chance to change that with voters and with conservatives. But there are some, I think, who wish she would not run and just continue being a very effective spokeswoman for all these conservative causes.
Well, does her continued flirtation with potentially running for president, how does it affect people like Tim Pawlenty, Michelle Bachmann, who may or may not announce that she's going to run for president?
That's a really interesting question. I think her flirtation with running could mean that some of those social conservatives aren't going to settle on a candidate until they see if she's going to get in, because they'll want to go with her. So that means this race is going to be more fluid and stay kind of unsettled. So, you know, if she gets in, she could get a lot of those social conservative votes. And those are votes that Pawlenty was really hoping to get as he tries to compile a broad cross-section of voters when he's taking on the presumptive frontrunner Mitt Romney. And as for Michelle Bachmann, the Minnesota Congresswoman, I mean, she said yesterday that Palin's decision on whether to run will not affect her own decision. And I think that makes sense. I mean, Bachmann is her own person. There's no reason that we can't have two strong conservative women in the race. I mean, they're going to be competing for the same votes, the social conservatives and the Tea Party. But, you know, last time I checked, we got quite a few men in the race who are slugging it out for the same votes. So some of those questions of pitting Palin against Bachmann, I think, are kind of unfortunate.
And I'm sure it's no coincidence that Mitt Romney and Michelle Bachmann both have major announcements on a day when Sarah Palin announces she's going to be on a national bus tour. All right, CBS's Jan Crawford in Washington for us this morning. Jan, thank you. Have a wonderful weekend. We appreciate it.